to Hit the Reset Button, the podcast where we explore purpose-driven pivots and the courage it takes to start over, especially after 50. Good afternoon, Vikas. Thank you for taking the time to be part of Hit the Reset Button podcast today.
Thank you. Thanks, Malu, for having me, and a pleasure being here.
Thank you. So this podcast focuses on second career and how easy or difficult it is to leave the long-standing jobs and follow new callings. So before we do that, I would like you to share a bit about your first career and what was the main catalyst for leaving that established world behind.
Oh my God. So I didn't know I was in my second career. I just see that as an extension of my first.
True.
But my first career itself, has been in banking. A long time, 34 years in the banking industry. Well, where do I start? I don't want to kind of sound like, going back too much into history, but I started my banking career back in 1985. That's when I graduated, supposedly, from Elphinstone College in Bombay, having done a bachelor's in economics. And actually, it was back in the day, I had no idea that, banking is going to be my career and this is where I want to be. There was no such, reason for me to get into banking. It was actually by default. And I can share a anecdote which kind of led me into this industry. So when we were in college, and every evening friends would gather and play games and whatever else and then hang out. So there was someone in our group who had graduated the previous year and was working in a bank, and we would see him come and be with us, and he was always dressed in a suit, and he was with an international bank. And I said, this is where I want to be, simply because he was well turned out. He had some money in his pocket, and that's really what kind of resonated with me in terms of the career that I wanted to pursue. And long and short of it is, I ended up in exactly the same bank that this friend of mine used to work with, and that was at a bank in Bombay back in 1985, and that's where my career really started. And I can tell you that the first few years were pretty bad, because straight from college, I was getting into a formal kind of a working environment. And I was probably not set up for it. I was not ready for it. So it was, the first 2 years were pretty hard, just trying to kind of adjust to that ecosystem. But finally the penny dropped, and I became, pretty serious about the career. And I kind of then really buckled down and started doing well, and I was well recognized within the firm. And then one thing led to the other. I then went overseas, did an MBA at the Melbourne University, came back and joined HSBC, and that's really where my true banking career started. And then after a few years at HSBC, I got an opportunity to move to Deutsche Bank. I still remember the day, 2nd of May 1994. And then stayed in Deutsche Bank for 25 years till 2019. So that was a very, very, so to speak, a memorable career from my perspective. Just experienced so many different roles, many different geographies, and so that's really where my banking career started. And I can go on and on about this, but let me just summarize to say that I spent 34 years in the banking industry, and found the experience just amazingly fulfilling, enriching, made me into the person that I am, and like they say, the rest is history.
Now I know why you're so well groomed all the time. And interestingly, mine is the same. To be in Citibank was like the in thing. Everyone is going there. There's a lot of glamour attached to it. And that's how I jumped into Citibank as well. So all of us, I guess, had different stories for getting into banks. So can you go back to the moment you knew that it was time to change? Was it a slow burn, or was it a sudden epiphany for you?
So actually, it was a multitude of things. I always knew that, as you get older in an organization, and as you kind of get older, and that's probably the subject of this discussion as well. You do get the sense, not that you are not relevant anymore, but start asking yourself, what am I doing with my life, and is this how I want to continue for the foreseeable future? And to some extent, it's the financial part as well. So, touch wood, with God's grace, both my son and my daughter, they graduated from good schools, and they found themselves good jobs in the financial industry in London, and they were kind of effectively off my payroll. And I can tell you, a lot of the younger folk, they do want to kind of stand on their own feet. And probably that's the grooming that they saw of their parents as well. Very independent, just making, doing things on their own. And so once the kids were off my, so to speak, payroll, I said, hey, this is really the opportunity for us, for me and my wife, to do something very different. And we kind of discussed this, because it has to be a family decision. It's not something about us as an individual looking to do something different, because it does, have some impact on your partner as well. But having then decided that I want to do something different, the question was, what is it that I want to do? So I've been a board member of a not-for-profit here in Singapore for 7-8 years, and that kind of exposed me to a very different ecosystem. And that was in my private time. I was doing it pro bono. And I kind of figured that this is the ecosystem that I think I want to pivot to in some shape or form. I didn't know in what shape and form, but I said I want to explore something in this sector. And then it kind of gave me, I had the luxury of time to really decide when I'd like to kind of pivot. So 2023, after 34 years in the banking industry, that was a milestone year for me personally. And I said, this is when I'm going to finally pivot and do something different. And then you make the hard call, because like I said, I mean, you don't get the paycheck coming, you don't get the ring in your bank account every month, right? And I said, doesn't matter, we've sorted our finances out, and let's now kind of really take time to pivot and make the transition. So that's really what kind of drove me to look at the next career. I think I was very clear in my mind that I'm probably not of the DNA to sit back and just watch the world go by. Of course, the thought of playing golf 5 days a week comes into your mind, getting onto a plane and traveling where you want. But I knew that, hey, listen, I mean, these things kind of are good for a short period of time. But after that, I want to get up in the morning, wanting to do things and wanting to know what is it that I'm going to do. And that's really kind of what drove me to kind of see how I want to lead the next 10 years of my life. So yeah, that's really what the transition was about.
Yeah. Interestingly, I think most of us go through what you've been through, but to take it to the next level, that's something I want to bring up again when we're talking about advices to people like the rest of the folks who get stuck. Finance, again, you touched upon it. That's another sticky topic. A lot of people refuse to budge out of their comfort zone, mainly because of finance. It could be part of the midlife crisis, saying, what do I do without that credit every month? So that's another interesting point. You need a lot of courage to take this leap, right? But what does it actually feel like? More from an emotional state, from being a very successful banker with all the frills and the perks, to move into a social impact space. So how has it been from an emotional perspective for you?
So I think it's all about the attitude, and it's all about your desire to kind of pivot. And once those boxes are ticked, trust me, it's just you and yourself and your mindset that you need to kind of, tune into. So it's the right attitude. I mean, I just said, roll up your sleeves. When I was pivoting into the impact ecosystem, I was given a very good piece of advice by somebody who said that, look, you as a banker are coming into a very different sector, and the sector is going to ask, what is this person bringing to our ecosystem? Just by virtue of the fact that you've been in the banking industry for 30 years, hey, are you going to be, relevant, and how are you going to contribute to this sector? And what he told me is that, can you imagine someone from the social sector after 30 years of being in the social sector wants to pivot into banking? Is he or she going to be acceptable? And, that person may have the desire to kind of pivot into banking and may have all the knowledge and, the attitude and the aptitude, but are you as a banker going to accept him or her? And what he basically said is that you got to pivot, clearly, with the mindset that you are here to learn. You're not here to change the world. You're still not ready for that. So if you go in there with the attitude, I am here to learn, I'm not kind of, portraying the DNA that I know everything and I'm going to kind of, tell you guys how to run whatever you're doing. And once you kind of accept that, then, get in there and, roll up your sleeves, ask questions. You're not going to be able to, don't jump with answers, because you're coming from a very different mindset. And you need to be accepted by folks around you. So once you kind of, internalize some of these aspects, then you move in the right way, and you probably are then accepted.
So you must have struggled with your professional identity, right? I mean, at least initially for a few months. I mean, how did you overcome that?
Of course. Yeah. So a few things hit you hard, because obviously this sector is a lot about people being there because they are passionate about this sector. A lot of the frills and benefits that you get by being in a bank, just disappear. When you board a plane, when you're in a bank, you turn left, but in this sector, you got to turn right. The office space that you work in is obviously very different. The clothes people wear are very different. The mindset, the discussions are all very different. So obviously, it's not that, it didn't hit me. It did hit me. And you do question yourself, right? I mean, is this the right decision? Is this sustainable? But like I keep coming back to the attitude. I think that's one advice that I can give to anyone that's looking to pivot. You got to have the right attitude. You got to get there, with the mindset of learning. Keep an open mind. Don't jump with, answers, and don't jump with your opinions straight away. Internalize, change your DNA. Not easy to do after 34 years of being in a particular direction.
Yeah.
But I mean, look, once you get in there with the right attitude, I think the ecosystem comes with you, and the ecosystem helps you. I would kind of say that the ecosystem just supports you to kind of pivot as well.
So when you shared this thought of moving from one sector to another, say from banking to the social space, what was the reaction of your family members or your friends? Did they think you were crazy, or they thought it was a good jump to do?
Of course, in a well-meaning manner. So I wouldn't say that they mean ill.
True.
But of course, you have to have a very supportive family and a very supportive partner. But the once you cross that hurdle, then look, I believe in one thing, that at the end of the day, it's you and yourself that has to be convinced.
True.
And once you have that conviction and you're convinced about what you want to do, it does take time to kind of find your rhythm. But if you're kind of fastidious about what you're doing and you stick to the path and you put in the effort as well, and you roll up your sleeves, I think, then I also then, 6 months, 8 months into the role, when they saw me, just still very enthusiastic and talking with passion. I think, yeah, I did get a lot of support from my friends and from my family as well. Yeah, of course, they all ask, what is it that you're doing? I mean, are you going there and working with the underserved community? You got to explain to them what you're doing and what your mission is, and you got to kind of demystify the ecosystem. But that's all part of the learning. That's all
Yeah.
part of the pivot.
Okay. So now that you've moved, normally when you move from one sector to another, there's a cycle of learning, unlearning, and relearning. So, what skills did you realize that you could carry forward from your previous career, and what was the new thing that you had to learn? Some of the new initiatives or some of the new skills that you had to acquire from scratch?
Sure, sure. So I guess there's some skills which are very transferable. The fact that you analyze a problem in a certain way, you break it down to smaller pieces. I think that's a skill which will apply in any ecosystem. It's the mindset that's important, because the moment you see a problem, and if I were to kind of go back and put on my banking hat, I would say that, hey, this is how you should solve it. But what always came through from my side is that how do you kind of monetize this? How do you, where is this? How is this going to be sustainable? How are you going to kind of, inverted commas, make money, and not make money in terms of, return for yourself through a bigger bonus or the profit that you make for your organization. But how do you be sustainable even as a not-for-profit? And therefore, I don't really like the word not-for-profit, because everyone should, and every organization and every individual should be sustainable.
True.
And for sustenance, you need, you need the dollars. And therefore, you should be able to deliver something which can be monetized. So I think that was the first, unlearning and relearning I had to do. That step back. It's not all about making supernatural or large, margins and making the most money. It's balancing the good that you want to do through your activity. It's earning your dollars for the firm, for the organization you work for, but does not have to be above normal profit, so to speak. So that was something that that I had to kind of reorient and rewire my brain to say that put on a hat that looks at things other than just profit, right? So that was one. But other skills like communication, in terms of bringing people together, and some positive things that come from your banking background as well, that you try and be as efficient as possible with your resources. You make sure that you kind of deliver what you want to deliver from the lowest cost base or the most efficient cost base, and you deliver a product which is professionally kind of curated, professionally delivered. And although it's a not-for-profit ecosystem, you still need to be efficient. You need to be professional. You need to be, you need to stick to your targets. You need to stick to your timelines. And these are things which come so naturally to us from the banking side, right? Which may not always resonate for folks from the not-for-profit, because they're not being measured by some of these aspects, right? So I think this cross harmonization of different ecosystems is very critical. Pass on some of your learnings to the other side as well.
You also did a course at SUSS to groom yourself, right? Can you share a bit about that? Which is very impressive. I mean, the way you went about planning the whole thing.
So that was for two reasons. Number one is that I quit my job in January of 2023, and I said, so from being a very active, banking role, I said, from the very next day, what are you going to get up and do? And what does this pivoting actually mean? And why will someone take you seriously just because you've woken up one day and said you want to pivot into this ecosystem? Why are they going to kind of accept you? So it was to kind of tick off some of these boxes as well, that I said the first thing is, go and enroll for a course. It was a 1 year long program. It was at the Singapore University of Social Sciences. So very much in a different orientation. And by doing that course, kind of got me grounded, kept me grounded in terms of actually reading and learning, and engaging with a very different set of people. I knew exactly what I had to do from the very next day, so I wasn't like at a loose end. Of course, I did take some time off and traveled a bit and kind of did all of that. But once that was done, I was in on a particular track. And by doing this course, I think the ecosystem also says, hey, this guy is serious about what he's talking about. So it kind of ticked a number of boxes, kept me grounded, kept me on a particular path, and also kind of resonated with the ecosystem in terms of me being able to communicate my intent more forcefully, or in the right manner.
It is. What was the hardest thing to unlearn from your banking days? In banking, everything has to be done as of yesterday is one example. Is there something else that comes to your mind?
Yeah, so just the orientation that, where is the money?
Yes.
In banking, it's all about show me the money. So that to me was the toughest, part to kind of reorient. And look, I think it took me like 5 or 6 months to really figure out what role I can play in this ecosystem. And those 6 7 months while doing the course, speaking to a lot of people, I think helped me kind of transition in a real kind of organized manner, if I can use that word. And I had given myself 12 months.
Okay.
I said 2023 is the year of pivot, and it's the year of reinventing yourself. So I had given myself 12 months. Um, so so the 6 or 7 months that it took, because I started my new role, my second career, so to speak, on the 9th of August 2023. So from the end of Jan till about August, which is 6 7 months, um, I was doing my course. I was reading. I was going and meeting people. I was attending conferences, and so I would say it was a softer landing, because I'd given myself enough latitude during which I was going to pivot. I had not put any unrealistic kind of targets that I have to pivot within 3 months, because that's when you make wrong decisions. When you have the pressure of time and you have the pressure of getting something done by a certain date, something as different and as unique as a pivot, I gave myself enough latitude. So, but in terms of unlearning, I would think that orientation of money is what I kind of had to unlearn pretty quickly.
I did a stint with a not-for-profit some many years ago, and typical you go from a corporate to a social sector. I was supposed to manage strategy and funding. So on day two, I said, "Where is your succession plan?" And he was livid. He says, "How can you talk about succession plan? This is my my company, and I will run it the way I want." And then that's when you figure out it's not a straightforward jumping from one to another. It's a completely different sector with a different mindset, I guess. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So I'm going to switch to a topic that's completely different now. So I want to touch upon a new buzzword called ageism, right? So did you encounter any skepticism or outright ageism during your transition from one sector to the other?
I wouldn't boil it down to ageism. I think many a times we bucket people's reactions into, hey, this person, like, thinks I'm, of a different generation and is reacting in this particular way. But I think it's all about our own mindset
Yeah.
rather than actually somebody saying that, hey, what's this guy doing here? So I've never really kind of encountered any sort of uh, negative kind of bias in that sense. It's more about our own mindsets kind of playing games with us. But of course, in the banking world, I would say that um, and again, I'm not going to kind of be negative about this. I'm not going to say that people actually think you're kind of old and irrelevant. No, I've never kind of encountered that. But look, I mean, let's call a spade a spade. When you're in your mid to late 50s and early 60s, you're going to perform differently than you were 30 years old. Let's call a spade a spade. You're not going to be as kind of inverted commas uh, energetic,
Yeah.
or you're not going to be able to work 12, 15 hours for a week back to back.
Yeah.
So you got to accept that. I mean, that's part of growing, and that's part of the deal.
Our perspective, it is the mindset and how you react. But I'm looking more from corporate and the society's perspective. A few of us are building a platform to help senior professionals re-enter the workplace. It's not an easy journey, and most of the roles available today are all voluntary rather than paid. And so the concern is it that the large organizations haven't yet figured out how to harness this pool of talent? Because this is like a gold mine of experience and leadership waiting to be unlocked. But it is impossible to go back to a workplace. So why is that so? And even if you look at the retirement age, it varies from country to country. So if you're in India, you retire at 60. The same Indian goes to the US, you can work for life. So what's your thought on these points?
No, absolutely. So, if I worked at a Japanese bank, and the retirement age in a Japanese bank, believe it or not, because Japan is an aging society, is 52 years of age.
Oh, serious? Okay.
Yeah. And I think it's now moved to 55. But can you imagine where the life expectancy in a country like Japan is like well into your late 80s and 90s?
Yeah.
And there at 55, you may end up being, retired from what you're doing. So look, it is a challenge. Let's face it. I think companies and institutions are becoming, more and more, conscious of the cost. They don't want fixed costs. They'd rather keep their costs variable, and they'd rather bring in talent. When they have a need for that particular talent, and they want to keep their costs variable. That's just the way it is. And that's the way it is, even if you're 30 years old, right? But yes, I would say that society does look at ageism, and the first question that they ask is, hey, why are you not just retired? Why aren't you retiring? And retiring to them means
Playing
not
golf.
going into the workforce, and just sitting at home and reading a newspaper. And probably that's what our parents did, and that was their generation.
Yeah.
But the world keeps changing. I think what used to happen at 55 earlier is happening today at 65. But that time will come. I mean, somebody at 65 may say, hey, I have the energy, and I want to keep continuing to deliver. But yes, I would say that it's a mixed bag. Um, it's your own society, and your own ecosystem sometimes questions you. Hey, why are you doing this? Why don't you just sit back and spend time uh, you know cultivating a hobby, or doing what you want to do? um, Not an easy one to solve. Not an easy one to solve, because you have corporations that want to be run efficiently. They want speed of delivery. They want to inverted commas, reduce the fixed cost and keep their costs variable. So balancing all of this is never easy, and the most important thing is the mindset, right? So I think it's I keep coming back to this point, but controlling your mind is probably the most important thing at this age, because it's the transition that you're kind of dealing with, which is never easy to kind of manage.
No, what puzzles me is if you look at top leaders of various countries, they're all in their 70s, and you're okay to give a whole country to this person to run, whereas to give a job or a department to somebody in their 60s seems to be difficult. So I'm still grappling. I understand the mindset, but I'm still grappling with it. So it's like, why? So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Look, I
so,
think the ones who are in their 70s and running countries,
yeah,
I can tell you they have a very different mindset and they have a very, very different DNA.
probably.
Um, it's that one person out of millions that's kind of reached that position. So there's something really extraordinary. But if you take the bulk of the population, I mean that's where that's the one that we are trying to solve for, right?
Yeah. No,
Um, and just the regular Joe on the road, who's kind of moving from one so to speak age bracket to the next. He or she is just the regular person.
yeah.
I mean, they've grown, in so to speak normal circumstances. Yeah, I would say that I don't blame organizations, because trust me, as a manager, if I was looking to recruit someone, I mean, I would always ask, hey, what's the vintage of this person? How much runaway do I have with him or her? What's it going to look like in the next 5 years? Are they still going to be able to deliver? And of course, those timelines have narrowed as work culture changes as well. But look, I mean, let's call a spade a spade. That's the way. That's the reality of the situation. You got to make the most within that reality, and that's why I think, Malu, what you guys are doing in terms of providing opportunities, because at times people at this age are, so to speak, they find it difficult to reach out for things.
Yeah.
But if you provide a platform, I think that's a great way to kind of, cut the barrier to entry for some of these people who probably don't want to go and, cold call with, 30-year-olds to say, hey, is there something that I can do for you?
True.
So I think providing that platform, which is seamless, which has a bunch of opportunities for people to kind of bid for, without really having to, inverted commas, grovel in front of someone, I think is really going to be a game changer for a lot of people.
Yeah. If there's if there's an advice that you want to give a 50 plus person who's currently feeling stuck and doesn't know how to hit the reset button, and this person is not as structured and systematic as you are, so what would your advice be? Because there are a lot of people out there struggling with it, and you make it sound easy, simple, but it's not. So what are the baby steps that people need to take to move ahead?
Yeah, I think easier said than done. One is, don't sit at home. The moment you sit at home and you kind of, trust me, that's the first steps to going downhill, right? And that's something that I did. I took up a co-working space, so I would at least get out of home. I had a place to go to. I had people around me, again of all different backgrounds and different of different different communities and so on and so forth. There was a buzz all around, and I think just planting yourself in that ecosystem in itself is the first step towards making a pivot. But if you're going to sit at home and you're going to kind of read newspapers and then get onto your laptop and do research and stuff like that, hey, the world is going to forget you. Trust me, the world is going to forget you. So you have to get out of home, go and plant yourself in an ecosystem and an environment which kind of is buoyant and is noisy and is kind of buzzing with activity, because that's going to kind of, you're going to feed off that.
Yeah.
The second is, you got to have thick skin. As simple as that. Because the 10 people that you're going to reach out to, 8 are going to tell you, hey, I'm traveling for the next 3 weeks. Get in touch with me after 3 weeks. That's the
So true.
first signal you get that the guy's not interested to talk to you. But out of the 10 people, there are going to be two who are going to say, yeah, come, let's have a coffee. And invariably, those discussions, even if you hear the same thing, it is still a discussion. And from that, you probably get, you get two more leads. So don't get out of the meeting till you say, hey, can you introduce me to somebody else that in your, ecosystem I could speak to. And I always believe in again, it's a golf adage. When you see, someone like a Tiger Woods, sink a 20-foot putt, most people will say, this guy is just lucky. I mean, it's just pure luck that the ball went in. But actually, he's practiced for hours and hours and hours. And therefore, harder you practice, the luckier you get. And exactly the same thing here. If you're out in the ecosystem, you don't know what penny is going to drop where. And the opportunities will come from the most unexpected situations and from the most unusual circumstances. So if you're sitting at home, you're not going to be there in that ecosystem to even stand a chance to kind of, for anything to happen to you.
True.
So I would say be out there. You got to have thick skin. 8 people are going to say no, but they're going to be those 2 guys who are going to kind of say yes, meet them, and just be there in the environment. Not easy. Not everyone can do it. But if you are serious about, making a pivot, and you're serious about so to speak, a second career or whatever, or a different career, you got to be out there. Otherwise, the world is not waiting for you.
And a positive mindset as well, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So looking back, is there anything you would have done differently?
Because when you're young and you're kind of you kind of tend to overlook the power of relationships, and you kind of sometimes react in a particular way, and you sometimes end up burning bridges because you want to show that, hey, I'm like the person. So I think some of those things, I guess that's your own DNA. Some people learn that sooner rather than later. But yeah, I would have probably paid a lot more attention to building and maintaining, not just but maintaining contacts and maintaining a Rolodex is very, 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 very critical.
It's very true. Yeah, networking does a lot of wonders for us, I guess. On a lighter note, what's the funniest or maybe the most cringeworthy story you have about trying to fit in with the younger colleagues in your new workplace? I'm sure there are a lot of youngsters out there as
Oh yeah,
well.
absolutely. There are, and yeah, I guess just kind of accepting a different way of doing things um, is probably something that I've realized. I think a lot of the new lingo is very different, so you got to kind of learn the acronyms pretty quickly. And I think the other thing that kind of to me was quite unique was at work, you on a Friday or a Thursday or whatever, go out for drinks and whatever else, and then you end up there with a in a very different environment, and you've inverted commas gone to a pub or gone with your friends who are your age group, and here you're with people who are at a very different age group. And I asked somebody that, hey, listen, we were just having a general chat, and and although I think I kind of connect with the younger generation pretty well, but I still ask this person, how old are you? And it so turned out that that he was even younger than my daughter, and that to me was like, hey, God, what is this? I mean, here I am, acting, I'm trying to behave in a very different way, and to connect and make my equation, and this person is even younger than my youngest child, right? Which is very difficult to kind of grasp and grapple, but that's the way it is. I would say, look, yeah, keep a very open mind. If you can't make up your mind as to what you want to do, just meet a lot of people, keep an open mind, be out there. Uh, there's a lot more to life than we believe. That our minds actually allow us to kind of think. And today there are just so many different, so to speak, opportunities to kind of be meaningfully engaged than they were, like 20 years ago. So yeah, stay abreast of course, what's happening around you from a geopolitical point of view, but stay abreast of technology. I think there is the power of technology today is just immense, and if we are not going to harness that, we are going to be left behind. So don't be a dinosaur. Get out there, roll up your sleeves. There's a lot that all of us can contribute to, and let's not be constrained by our own narrow thinking and our own mindsets and what people will think and what uncle will think or what this guy will think or what someone else will think. Just get out there and just do it.
Okay, thank you so much, Vikas. It was very inspiring, and I think your journey is a reminder that I guess reinvention is possible and it's very deeply meaningful as well. So thank you so much for this conversation with you.
Thank you. Pleasure being on this discussion.